Saint Colette, whom we celebrate in the Franciscan calendar today, was an answer to her 60-year-old mother's endless prayers, who had been childless up to that time. And the little girl took great pleasure in prayer, in compassion for the poor, and even in rigorous mortification, making of her soul and body a sacrifice to God. And until she was 14 years old, she remained unusually small, and which grieved her father. But Colette begged God to console her father in this matter. And she began to grow very rapidly to an average height. She also asked God to deprive her of the rare beauty she possessed. She believed that it might be an occasion of sin to herself and to others. And that request was also granted, so that she developed features of a very austere character, which inspired great respect. When both of her parents had died, Colette, at the age of 22, obtained permission to shut herself up in a small dwelling directly adjoining the church. And from a small window in it, that she could see the Blessed Sacrament. And there she expected to spend the remainder of her life as an anchoress. She had adopted the rule, the third order rule of St. Francis, and endeavored to live in perfect poverty, severe mortification, and constant prayer, in order to become more and more like her seraphic father, St. Francis. She received many consolations from heaven, but she also experienced severe temptations and even beatings from demons who promised that they would stop if she quit praying. She had passed 4 years in this extraordinary penance when St. Francis, in a vision, directed her to undertake the reform of the Poor Clare order, which at that time was very lax. And she doubted for a time. And she was struck mute for 3 days, and then with blindness for another 3 days. And finally, she resigned herself to the will of God. And she cried out in her heart, Lord, what will you have me do? She said, I'm ready to do anything you desire. And at once, her speech and her sight returned. And the Lord sent her a special director under whose guidance she was to perform extraordinary things. And she finally got some ecclesiastical backing, and with that she established the reform throughout a large part of Europe. And in spite of the most violent opposition, she founded 17 convents of the strict observance of the rule of St. Clare during her lifetime. After her death, similar foundations were established in countries other than France, in which the primitive rule of St. Clare was to flourish once again. St. Colette endured untold hardships in fulfilling the task assigned to her, but heaven, supported her even in visible ways. There were numerous miracles, including the raising to life of several dead persons, which occurred in answer to her prayers and in confirmation of her work. But she always remained humble, regarding everything as the work of God, who often chooses the lowliest people as his instruments. And after laboring for 40 years, she was to receive her eternal reward, and she died in her convent at Ghent on March 6, 1447. And at the moment of her departure from this world, she appeared to several sisters in different convents. Pope Urban VIII beatified her, and Pope Pius VII canonized her in 1807. We read in Scripture that many have perished by the beauty of a woman. And, St. Colette reflected on this truth, and fearing to give anyone occasion to sin, she asked God to deprive her of her beauty. And God heard her prayer by means of a miracle. And how different is the example of many young women today who not only prefer to be beautiful to plain looking, but they even endeavor in every possible way to enhance their looks and to make themselves more attractive. Such persons lay snares for souls and draw down upon themselves sin and misery. A Christian young woman is not going to act that way, and whoever does doesn't deserve the name of Christian anymore. Moreover, it's not a Christian practice to make little girls conscious of their beauty. You see these beauty pageants with just 5-year-olds. It's insane. But it only nourishes that evil inclination of fallen human nature to vanity. So we need to examine our conscience and see if we need to reproach ourselves, concerning these matters.